Hey everyone, welcome back to Room 237, and continuing the saga that I started in my last video with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, we now come to 2014's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which, unlike Rise, I did not see this in theaters. I think I saw Rise more as a novelty of I just want to see apes go crazy in a more contemporary setting. Here I thought it was going to be more of like the sci-fi, more Planet of the Apes-y than Rise. So I didn't see it in theaters, plus 2014 was, I was well into the dark path of my life, and I wasn't really seeing anything in theaters. But when it came out on DVD, I thought, what the hell? I Redboxed it, and I was blown away by it. I was absolutely blown away. I actually Redboxed it 3 times before I finally went out and bought it. And when I did buy it, I bought Dawn and Rise on Blu-ray. And some years ago, there's a handful of movies, CDs, and even books that went missing or stolen. Those were of the bunch, so when I went out and rebought them, I just picked up the DVDs. But when I saw it, I liked it even more than Rise. I still like it even more than Rise. It's my second favorite of the trilogy. It does what any good mid-film in a trilogy should do. Build off the first one and continue the story in the same spirit in a very strong way. And if it's lucky enough, even be superior than its predecessor. And it does all of those. Now, while Rise was directed by Rupert Wyatt, this was directed by Matt Reeves, who would also direct War. Prior to this, he had done Cloverfield and the American version, Let Me In. Of course, he's going to be directing The Batman, which I am very excited for. I have a reaction video for that. What Matt Reeves brings to this is just a whole other level of cinematic epicness. Just a huge scope of storytelling on just a grand level of emotional gravitas, character, world building. Across the board, everything works for this film, in my opinion. But like Rise, it was also written by Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. But this time they brought in Matt Bomback, which I'm not sure what else he's written. Live Free or Die Hard, which I haven't seen those films. The Wolverine, 50 Shades of Grey, War for the Planet of the Apes. So he's a hit and miss. But, also Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. The returning cast, I know, is, of course, Andy Serkis, who plays Central 8 Caesar. And he does phenomenal in this. He should have been nominated for Best Actor in this, certainly for War, but of course, I know the Academy sees motion capture as not really acting, even though all of the movements of body, face, emotion, words, vocals is all the actor. But coming new to the cast, we have Jason Clarke, Gary Oldman, Keri Russel, Toby Kebbel as Koba, and Kodi Smit-McPhee, who prior to this was the boy in The Road, which I think, did Matt Reeves direct that? No, he didn't. John Hillcoat. I don't know why I thought he directed that. But, I mean, I don't even know where to begin because I love this film to death. It's been compared to Empire Strikes Back for just how it expands on the story and characters set by the predecessor, but on a grander scale of epic story, emotion, characters, but also being more toned down. Like Empire Strikes Back, from what I remember, it's been forever since I've seen Star Wars. You know, this does have action in it, but it's pushed way towards the end. It's definitely more of a character drama. And in a world of film where I once heard Edward Norton call it, or he called it in lieu of, I guess what producers would call short attention span theater, meaning can't really have scenes, long scenes of silence or tension buildings, while you always have talking or action or music or movement. But here we get long scenes of silence where the apes are communicating through sign language. And it is engaging. It is just as if not more engaging than some of the best movies with speaking actors that are there that are not motion capture. The effects are, I think, fully realized and finely tuned by this film, because I recently rewatched all three of these for these reviews, and as I said in Rise, the CGI doesn't quite hold up. It does look very obvious. It does look very dated. It can grow on you, but at first it can be very jarring with how obviously fake it looks, how obviously CGI it looks. Here, though, it's fairly convincing. I mean, you can see the fur, the pores on the skin, it's raining constantly in this film. So like when the fur is wet, you see it. It really can feel the substance of the apes when they're on screen. So the CGI is way better. Still holds up, I think, but beyond perfected for this. I still think this is the most stunning CGI I've ever seen. But all right, I'm going to try to make this shorter than my long-ass review for Rise. So it opens up with sort of TV footage of news, because the post-credit scene in Rise shows the jerk neighbor, the bad human neighbor, who has been infected with this virus caused by the drug that makes the apes intelligent, and how he gets on a flight, and we see that through a map how it spreads. So here we see that same map with news footage starting off small about this flu, this virus breaking out, and how it just builds to staggering deaths, military blockades, and containment centers. Even President Obama coming up and saying, it's the end. Really showing just the evolution of the end of the world through the news. And it's been a while, it's been a couple of years since I've seen this, but it's very relevant today because some of that footage shows people with masks talking about, a virus, this flu. So it's very relevant today for sure. Of course, it's been called the simian flu because they attribute it to the apes. And then we just see that map of Earth, how it just goes dark. Kind of like the newer Universal logo when we see the lights all over the world, how it just goes dark. And then we get that opening shot Well, it's all black and red letters, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Then we just get that up-close shot of Caesar's face. Just that. As it pans out, there's like the lightning and thunder, the rain. And he's standing up with a branch. We see apes all around him. One signs that they're coming. He has a son now called Blue Eyes, because he has blue eyes. And you get this great scene of how everyone, they got this war paint, kind of looks around, does this great Andy Serkis, Caesar. Wow. Because we get that they're hunting. They're hunting deer for food. And the camera does this. I mean, it is cinematic as hell. Just in the opening scene, camera does this quick swoop down to the ground, and it's going along with all these deer that are running and jumping over logs. It's silent, but there's like this, just super cinematic. Then the other apes, led by Koba, come up. And the first thing we see is Blue Eyes is sort of like an angsty teen who doesn't really like to listen to Caesar. He gets overzealous and gets himself in confrontation with a wild bear. Caesar has to fend it off. He calls for help. Koba runs along, jumps, spears it in the back of the neck, killing it. So the first shot is Koba saving Caesar. And the whole there's a string of events. Spoilers, by the way. Because if you haven't seen this trilogy, you owe it to yourself to go out and see it. So spoilers. I don't want to ruin this. There's several points throughout the film, and it starts with that, with Koba saving Caesar. There's 2 or 3 moments with the hand forgiveness thing between Caesar and Koba where there's tension and they're torn apart further and further until eventually the big climax of the film. So after hunting, we see Ape City. It's a bit more realistic than, say, in the original series where it looks more like Flintstone sand houses. Well, actually, where this is also building off of conquest and battle, as Rise did. They also have like grassy, branchy huts as well. But they get back to Ape City. We see that Maurice is like the teacher of the young. He's like the advisor and seer of Ape City. We see like their symbol is the star window design for Rise. They have their amendments carved in the rock, like ape not kill ape, knowledge is power. And they have like all just these big, like, just stick and branch, almost palaces, like multi-level. Caesar's wife Cornelia gives birth to another son, which he names Cornelius, which Caesar did name his son in battle Cornelius, but it was also his father's name. And the women have adopted, they wear like these flower buds around their heads and neck, and they wear like these veils of leaves around their face. So they've adopted some sort of jewelry or headwear. And then Caesar and Maurice are talking about how 10 years have passed since Rise, so it's 2026. And how the last 2 years has been no sign of humans. But Caesar expresses he still thinks about them. And again, all done through sign language, and it's still sign language with motion capture apes, and it's still engaging. in a time where movies are always constantly something happened, constantly talking, action, something, it takes its time. And, Maurice talks about how, he says I, but I think he means we, didn't know humans like you did, that you were raised by a good, loving human. And so then it picks up with Caesar and Ash, or Caesar, Blue Eyes and Ash, who is a Rocket's son. Maurice, Koba, and Rocket are all like the highest ranking apes along with Caesar. They're out fishing and they come across this human named Carver who sees them. He gets scared, shoots Ash, but he lives. And I like how there's long scenes of silence, because when he pulls that trigger, we get these establishing shots of the forest and the city, dead silent, just how it echoes throughout the entire land. So then all the apes rush there. The guy is then met up with by several humans, led by Jason Clarke. And Jason Clarke does a very good job. I think he's a very good character actor. I really liked him in Lawless with Tom Hardy and Shia LaBeouf. I did like the newer version of Pet Sematary, I'm not going to lie. I reviewed that as well. The only movie I saw with him that I did not enjoy was Winchester, which I did rant on. And so all the apes line up on the hill of tree stumps and trees. They're all kind of, looking like they're ready for attack. Jason Clarke, who plays Malcolm, gets them all to lower their guns. He says, "We mean you no harm." Of course, the guy that shot Ash is all like, they're apes. What the hell are you doing? And we get this great shot of Caesar as he just yells, "Go!" So they leave. He sends Koba and, what were the name of his apes? Was it Stone and Gray? I think it was Stone and Gray are the two apes he's with, to follow the apes back to the city. And they did a great job at constructing a 10-year dystopian San Francisco. I mean, the streets are all cracked and there's grass growing out of everything. Signs are knocked over. The bridge is all rusty. Looks very much like The Last of Us. So when a movie pulls that off well, I'm a big sucker for it. I really like the look of it. And we find out there's a handful of a few hundred humans that are all genetically immune to the virus. And Malcolm is also sort of co-founder of this group of humans, along with a guy named Dreyfus, played by Gary Oldman. Which, he's kind of like a bad version of Gordon for the Dark Knight trilogy, just without the mustache. Because he kind of looks and acts like Gordon, just like a bad... He's kind of like Culp, a Governor Culp from Conquest and Battle. Whereas Koba is like Aldo from Battle. So then the next day, the apes, we see a meeting with the apes. We get that Koba wants to go to war. Of course, he was tortured, abused, tested on. He has all these scars. he hates humans. Caesar wants to coexist in peace. Woods, city, apes, humans. And one of those, Koba's even like, Rocket, they shot your son. Don't you want revenge? And he's like, I follow Caesar, whatever he wants. Again, all through sign language. But Caesar starts to speak. Very monosyllabically. Like, he says like, home, family, future. Which by war, his speech is perfect. And, that first moment was Koba goes up to Caesar and he's like, I was abused, tortured, you freed me, I'll always follow you, but I do think we need to stay strong and stay on top of this. And then they go like this to each other. Not like they hold each other's arms like that. So then the next day, the apes ride into the city on horseback. So now we get to see the apes on horseback, which is awesome. They got their war paint on. Kodi Smit-McPhee is Jason Clarke's son. He dropped his bag when they were told to leave. So the apes get to the city, and there's like a couple hundred of them. And Caesar gives his speech of, apes do not want war, but we'll fight if we must. Ape home, human home. And he looks at Jason Clarke, he says, don't come back. Koba gives a hatred look. And then Blue Eyes goes up to Jason Clarke and gives his son's bag back. But then Jason Clarke goes back up to Gary Oldman and says, we need to fix that dam up in the woods so we can generate power to the city. Give me 3 days to go talk to the apes. See if I can, see if they'll let us do that. So he goes up with Keri Russel, his girlfriend, his son, the guy that shot Ash because he's the only one that knows how the dam works, and a couple other guys to help. So he goes up there. He gets permission from Caesar. So the apes let them do their work under the condition that they give them their guns, which they smash. And Koba and his apes make a couple attempts to go to the city, and they see that because Gary Oldman tells Jason Clarke, if you're not back in 3 days, we're going to go up there and kill every ape. Because all the weapons that were stored there during the initial contagion were all still stored there. It was like a military stopover. So Koba and his apes see a couple guys testing out rifles and sees how many weapons they have. And when they catch him, there's this humorous scene where he and he starts acting all dumb and stupid. So they'll think he's just a dumb monkey, which it's a pet peeve to call them monkeys. They're apes. But they call him a stupid monkey, telling him to run off. And then he goes to tell Caesar what he found, which at one point, because when Caesar agrees to let the humans do their work, Koba's like, why? We should crush them while they're weak. And he was like, just let them do their human work, and then they'll leave. And he points to his scars. He's like, human work, human work. He starts talking slightly as well. And he's like, yells at him, human work? Like, really? And Caesar stands up to him, so then he asks for forgiveness. So that's the second time. So it goes from saving Caesar to, being in an agreement to standing up to him the first time, asking for forgiveness. And then that's when he goes to the city, sees the weapons, fakes being a dumb ape. Then he goes to tell Caesar, which by now the humans are now working on the dam. The apes are even helping him, like, move stuff, like heavy rocks, and get rid of the blockage. And when Koba shows up, he's already angry that the apes are helping. So he challenges Caesar's like, Caesar loved apes, loved human more than apes, more than his own son. And then Caesar starts to beat him. And again, Andy Serkis is so phenomenal because I love how they're not only fighting, they're fighting like apes, like with their, like, swinging their arms and stuff. I know it's an obvious thing to bring up, but it's a fine detail that I enjoy. And just Andy Serkis' performance throughout the whole film is just mesmerizing. Just how much emotion he puts in he sells everything he does. He starts choking Koba, and he stops and he says, "Ape not kill ape." Bloodied Koba is like, "Look at me." And Caesar just barely touches his hand and he walks off. So now tension is at its highest. That's the third time. So this other ape asks Koba, and he's like, "You didn't tell him about the guns we found." He's like, "Neither will you." And at several, like, Bright Eyes keeps siding with Koba, saying we should fight the humans. Caesar keeps trying to talk to him. And like an angry, bitchy teenager, he just kind of walks off. And Koba plays it off like, "I'm worried for your father. He's blinded by trust. He doesn't trust me anymore." So they fix the dam. They get power restored. But at one point, the guy that shot Ash, they had to use dynamite to blast some blockage in the dam. And they got hurt. So Keri Russel's fixing his leg. And he has this case open. And Caesar has his little baby son Cornelius, who's crawling all around everything. And he picks up a small rifle, like a sawed-off shotgun. So he gets pissed, pushes Cornelius out of the way, takes the rifle. Caesar beats him. He's like, "I said no guns," throws it. He's like, "I don't trust you anymore, leave." But of course, Jason Clarke feels the need to go back up there. And I love this scene when he's like, "This is my home." He's fighting back tears. Cornelia is sick. Keri Russel's behind him, and she's like, "I have medicine. I can help her." And he's like, "You stay one day." He's like, "We might need to stay a little long." And then Caesar just cuts him off and yells, "One day!" And like, just the way Andy Serkis does it is perfect. So power gets restored. They're at this old rundown gas station. They test the power. They play, we see a guy put a CD in, and it plays the song "The Weight" by the band. Like, "I pulled into Nazareth." I've always liked that song. And just the look on everyone's face as they're just kind of like, it's like a sigh of relief, and like, oh my God. Like, you can tell these people have not heard music in so long. And it's just a nice little moment is one of those, it shows the humanity of these people, that something like music can bring such pure joy, because it's been just that little bit of normalcy. And then Caesar brings them back to Ape City, and he points to where the city is, and he's like, "Lights," meaning powers come back. And we even see Dreyfus, whose tablet comes back on for the first time in ever. And he's looking through, he sees pictures of his kids, and he starts crying. Which, there's even this one part which the day before they're allowed to do their work, the humans are out in their own part of the woods having a fire. And that guy Carver, the asshole, starts talking about, they start talking about the virus and, we shouldn't sympathize with apes, and looks at Keri Russel. He's like, didn't you have a daughter? Like, how did she die? How do you feel about that? But then after the incident with Cornelius and the rifle, while they stay another day, he has to sit in the truck a couple miles away. And it's at this moment Koba shows up, beats him to death. But this was after he goes back to the guys testing the rifles, acts dumb again, manages to get one of their rifles placed with it, shoots them. Then he kills Carver. So while Caesar is showing them lights from the city, from, in front of his house, his hut, and they have a moment of, trust. They trust each other. The humans can go back to the city with their power. Everything's going to be fine. And then this is the turning point of the film. Because down below, it's like up on a cliff. And down below on the branches, there's Koba, who has a rifle, points it up at Caesar, who sees him, shoots him, and then Caesar falls all the way down. Apes start to panic. He has his other two apes set fire to the apes' homes. And he leaves Carver's hat by the rifle. Seemingly looking like when Caesar fell, he took Carver with him. So Blue Eyes gets the rifle and he's like, human gun! And so then Koba and all the, which Maurice looks at the humans, he's just like, run. Then in the confusion, Koba is like, humans kill Caesar, the human gun. Burn ape home. Like, apes go to human city. Fight for apes. Fight for Caesar. And there are two movies that have the hardest to watch betrayal between two characters in it. Godfather 2 is number one, and then this. No matter how many times I see this, that betrayal, like that scene is, and then throughout the rest of the film, especially the climax, is just hard to watch. And one of the whole things about this movie is apes, apes were believed to be better than humans. They can live peacefully. They will not destroy each other. But then when there's a conflict of ideals, they can be just as bad as humans and turn on each other so that their ideals can rule. Caesar with peace, Koba with war. So much so, he plotted to kill Caesar in front of everyone, but make it look like a human did it, so apes will follow him into war. And it's used more through fear and hatred. And along with that, there's just a shot that to me is just one of the, in one single shot, just epitomizes evil. Like, just deceitful, betraying evil. Because apes are running around getting, trying to get themselves to do what they have to do. It's this wide shot with just the ape's home set ablaze in the background. You have Koba and Bright Eyes. They're doing that thing with the foreheads. And Koba just says, like, we will avenge your father's death. While there's like this, like, siren-y, or like a choir build up in the background. Like the background score. So just, they're silhouetted by the light of the flame. Their homes are burning. He just shot Caesar, but he's telling Caesar's own son, we will avenge his death, even though I did it. With that choir, just, it's a great depiction of evil just in that one shot. I've always loved that shot. So then we just get this, again, this silent, no music, anything, just humans partying in the city as the apes start to storm it. Apes on horseback with rifles just start storming the city. And it does a great job at depicting war as well. I mean, we see humans shooting, apes shooting, cutting back and forth. We see apes in slow motion getting shot off horses and falling. Eventually humans are in like an army tank shooting at apes. There are a couple scenes of Koba kind of looking around at all the apes that are dying with flames and explosions everywhere. There is one shot where Blue Eyes starts looking around and he sees this gorilla. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's pulling another wounded one across the way, but it's in slow-mo, so like it's like with like this sad, ominous music put to it. It's very heavy. It's depressing, but it's done very well. And then we also see the humans find Caesar, who's still alive. He has them take him to a place where he can recuperate and hopefully fix everything, which they end up going to James Franco's house. It's not explained what happens to James Franco, but we can assume he died from the flu. Because they pull up and we hear them say, like, where are we? And the camera pans up and this house is just engulfed in leaves and branches, and we just see the window and we know where they are. They nurse him back to health. Jason Clarke has to go back to the city to get like a surgical pack for Keri Russel, which when he goes, like, the apes have started rounding up all humans to put them in this cage. He's completely taken over. Great shots of, you know, like him climbing out on this flagpole with the American flag with like armies of apes leading humans to a cage. A lot of them he's just killing almost arbitrarily. He starts leading with fear because they're in like City Hall or something. This one guy grabs like a thing that would have like a ropes like you would see at City Hall or a bank, swings at the apes. Koba grabs it, hits him, and he looks at Ash. He throws him the thing and he's like, kill him, Ash. And he signs, Caesar wouldn't want this. And he drops it. So Koba puts his arm around him, kind of laughs, grabs him by the scruff of the neck, up the stairs. And I mean, he's like, the whole way. Picks Ash up and just throws him over the balcony to his death. And he looks at the other apes and he's like, Caesar gone. Apes follow Koba now. And Toby Kebbel does a great job with Koba as well. He's more like a but he does do a great job. So he's like just this hate-filled, tyrannical killing machine that will even kill his own apes, which there is one moment that is still pretty brutal to see. As Caesar heals, he goes back into his old room and he sees a camcorder is charging. And he picks it up and he sees this old video of him and James Franco while he's still a baby, learning sign language. And then they hug. And Caesar's smiling, but he's crying as he's watching it. Jason Clarke asks who it is, and he just says, a good man like you. It's very, I mean, this whole movie is greatly emotional. Rise felt like it was trying too hard to like pull at your heartstrings. get you feel sorry for the apes or hate humans. Here, it does a very good job at just showing emotional storytelling with emotional characters in a very real, humanly way. And it pulls it off greatly. Caesar has also locked up Rocket, Maurice, this gorilla Luca, and chained him up in this prison bus because they were too loyal to Caesar. They won't follow him. So, Blue Eyes has to help them break out so they can help get Caesar to where Koba is, which is top of Human Tower. I'm not sure which tower it is. If it's even a real tower. It's still being constructed. Like, it was being constructed while the virus broke out, but it's like a huge 70, 80-story skyscraper. Malcolm tries to take him and some apes down to the subway, but he encounters Dreyfus, this other guy, and a guy with a radio trying to contact the military. They're planning C4 because where they are at the subway is at the base of the tower. But he's able to get the apes to go up to the city that way while he stalls Dreyfus. Caesar makes it all the way up to the tower where Koba is, and they fight. And it's a pretty brutal, it goes along. So the movie opens up. Actually, I'll save that. So we're having a fight on this, unfinished skyscraper with I-beams and rebar, and big, open, dangerous place to fight. But it's fast-paced. You really get to see the apes use their feet to swing off of things and hit each other. Very well choreographed fight scene, and of course they're going at each other Caesar weak, Koba weaker. And, Caesar picks up this one thing as a shield. Koba has rebar. And Caesar's like, Koba belong in cage. And he starts hitting it harder, then he breaks right through the metal. And at one point, Dreyfus hits the C4 and it explodes. Malcolm survives, he takes cover. But the explosion does go all the way up, cause more destruction. And Koba picks up one of his apes, either Stone or Gray. One of his apes throughout the whole film has a rifle, but he's underneath this heavy rubble, and he's pleading for Koba to help him. And Koba just walks by. We just see his feet and his legs. Picks up the rubble, takes the rifle, and then just drops it back on his friend. And he just keeps walking towards where Caesar is. So we know Koba. Caesar even says Koba doesn't fight for Ape, Koba fights for Koba. He starts shooting. He even hits one of Maurice's cheek plates. And Caesar looks at everything he's been doing, sees that Maurice is hurt, and that's when he just leaps, attacks Koba, which Koba is now hanging on to an eye-bar over the shaft of the entire building. Wounded in his ribs, so he can't really lift himself. So Caesar goes to reach down. He grabs his arm. Koba says, "Ape, not kill ape." Caesar looks around, sees all the wounded apes, and he says, "You are not ape." And he just lets him go. And we see Koba fall, hit everything, fall, scream all the way to his death. And then we see the look on Caesar's face. And again, Andy Serkis is amazing as, you know, we see this look of both relief but also grief, because he just had to break the golden rule and kill a close friend, even a brother, because of the betrayal and to ensure the safety of his, you know, Ape's future. So just a look of relief, but also sadness and grief over what he's done. And then, so it opens with Koba saving Caesar with all these events that tears them apart over their ideals. Ends with Caesar having to kill Koba for the greater future of the apes. Powerful fucking movie. And then, of course, it ends with, because before Dreyfus sets off the C4, he says, we've already made contact with soldiers from the north. They're coming and they're going to wipe off all the apes. So Malcolm tells Caesar back down at ground level that, you know, it's going to be a war. You have to leave. And Caesar's like, no, the war's begun. We have to fight it. He says, but you should go. And we see Malcolm just kind of fade into the darkness as he leaves. And I won't say it in this video, but the people have always wondered about Malcolm's fate. There is a deleted scene in this that could possibly, if it is official, his fate, but I'll save it for that. And it ends with all the apes sort of crowding around Caesar, accepting him again as their leader, with this great zoom in on his eyes, and getting kind of angry again. So it opens and ends the same way. I love this movie. Earlier I said how it's been looked at as like Empire Strikes Back, like a superior sequel. I think of it more as like Godfather 2. And I know I said that for In Search of Darkness as well, but I could even make a whole video about my own connections I've made between this trilogy and the Godfather trilogy. But it's superior to his predecessor. Way more, it's more grand in its storytelling, in its characters, everything across the board. More cinematic, has a great betrayal in it, has a great, well, I was gonna say death, sort of like a, not so much, this isn't so much revenge as it's something that needs to be done. Godfather, not so much, but I consider it a Godfather 2 type sequel. Maybe I'm just more of a Godfather guy than Star Wars, but I could not get enough of this movie when I first saw it. Matt Reeves, seeing this and it, War, Planet of the Apes, sold me on Matt Reeves doing Batman. I mean, we've already seen the trailer, but that guy could direct anything, and I'll see it. He is going to make it cinematic as hell. Again, the effects are spectacular. It looks great. The effects on the apes, they look far more believable and real than in Rise. The motion capture actors, Andy Serkis, Toby Kebbel, all do a great job. Andy Serkis is, he's like a Daniel Day-Lewis or Robert De Niro, just highest caliber actor for motion capture. I saw him in The Prestige as some, you know, outside motion capture. Very excited to see him as Alfred in The Batman. Just the story, how also the look of the dystopian city. It was the next great step. Like, even Caesar gives a speech about how he thought, you know, apes were better than humans, but now I see how alike we are. And I think that was the next step that this trilogy needed. We see them rise and come together for their own, their own existence. But then we see, what the next step is. There's going to be conflicting ideals, and that's going to make them, that's the next step in making them more human. It has a lot to say about the human condition as well. The, conflicting ideals can lead to war within. And I think this is a perfect sequel. I love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Which is why so when I saw that, I got super stoked for this. And then this I did see in theaters, and this one is my favorite of the trilogy. Quite possibly my favorite Planet of the Apes film altogether. I know that might be blasphemous, but yeah, I don't know what else I can say. It's great on every level. Love the effects. Love the look of the film. It is cinematic as all hell. The music is great. Again, whether it's like that choir with Koba and Bright Eyes embrace while everything's burning, or just like that rising music while everything else is silent as we swoop down to run with the deer in the beginning. And so engaging. Long scenes of just sign language with motion capture apes. And it is just as engaging and well acted as some of the best films by the best writers with the best actors. Fantastic movie. I love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So stay tuned for a war for the Planet of the Apes. Thanks for watching.